Now, I'm not real sure how this is going to work out, but with every new venue that we try, which in this case is our iPhone recording a iVideo for Videvo. There's a few I's in there that I'm not too sure about, like me, myself, and I. But no, the reality of what we're doing is that we want to take it to the streets. We want to actually get out and get around to the place where we're found, not only in the comfortable settings within our house or our church or the venues that we're normally seen in, but rather to get out where Jesus is, to get out where Jesus was, to be in the place and the same place and time that Jesus took his disciples and said, "Follow me." Because you see, one of the things that I've discovered is that we are called a hasty people. And there's a reason why. Because we want to do everything in a hurry. We don't take our time. We don't make time. We don't choose the time and the place to be still and know our God. You see, one of the things that Christians find themselves at odds with is something that was common in the Middle East, and that is to meditate. Because in the Middle East, if you were out in a desert, you're not going to be running a marathon. Frankly, you're going to walk. And that's why the walk with God is so adamantly important for you to find yourself in a place and a time where you could take moments, minutes, dare I say hours, to have some QT time with God himself, to spend the amount of energy that is required to slow yourself down, to calm yourself down, to get in sync and get in touch with God himself. I like to tell people, whenever they get so wrapped up in religion or politics or the ways of the world and the gods of men, that they need to take a hike. No, really. I mean, if they would just simply get out and get away from the situation that they find themselves in, I think they would be more comfortable with the reality of knowing that God is with them, that God is in them, and that God is for them, than all those times that they wait until Sunday in order to get their worship time in. I don't know that I agree with, this kind of Christianity that says, hey, I've got to, get my QT with the big GD by having my W implanted in my soul. Having God manifest himself only in worship. I don't know about you, but I think you're missing out on the rest of the week. I find myself at odds with most people who seem to think that God is not intervening in life itself on a daily basis and in a moment by moment, hour by hour, even minute by minute experience. You see, one of the basic principles of Videvo Church is that not only do we seek to follow God, but we maintain the absolute reality that you and me, but you can hear God speak. Now, I've heard God speak to me, and God speaks to me regularly at times, not all the time, but whenever I choose to make time to listen, to put it bluntly, as I'm sitting here down on the bench, as I take the time and make the time to listen, then God speaks to me. He comes to me in the stillness. He speaks to me in the quiet. He chooses to use the seasons and the reality of my emotional base to come through my thought life, my soulful experience, and even at times physically to speak to me so I could hear him, so I would turn the focus and the attention of my spirit to him. Because you see, the reality of what you see around you is just a mere shadow of things that are passing away. they are not the real life, and they are not what you're going to experience in eternity. In fact, they are, quite frankly, created. You have the breath of God, as it were, in you that causes you to live forever. That being said, it doesn't mean you're going to live forever in heaven or on some reality that God is going to take us through from ages to ages life, which is what eternity means in the Hebrew. But rather, God himself has said to us by himself that we don't know what we're doing. We only know in part. We only see in part. And as a matter of fact, we only understand partially what God is doing. If I were to say that I know God, I would be a liar, because Jesus himself said, "No man has seen God except the Son of Man." Now, since we do have a promise from God that we can have a personal relationship with Jesus, the Son of God, then in reality that puts us in connection, and that puts us in conversation with the intervention of the living God. Now, I know a lot of people get off on this Jehovah, Yahweh kind of Yud Hey, Vav Hey, claiming that that's the name of God, or as sacred namers like to play with, trying to tell us that somehow they know that that's God's name. Well, frankly, I'm looking at a church that also says they know Jesus. It's a Mormon church. It is a place of assembly. It is something that they use in order to hopefully explain to themselves about God, such as they understand God to be. Now, I'm not saying that Mormons can't be saved. I'm just saying that they got a pretty confused picture of who God is, what God is, and who Jesus is. But having said that, what if you yourself have a confused, abused, and in reality don't know Jesus personally? What if you've been told so many things that you don't understand anything by yourself, in yourself, and of yourself about your personal relationship with God? That would be a problem, because you see, church isn't going to stand with you in judgment. Pastors aren't going to be there. Ministers of God, prophets of God, people that claim all kinds of titles and fame and shame and name it, well, guess what? They ain't going with you. You got to figure it out on your own, baby. And I got news for you. That can be quite an issue if you haven't figured out that you are going to meet the creator of the universe. Now, I don't know about you, but me, I think I would like to kind of get my ducks in order. I'd like to get out of the season of, shooting everything on sight by either a gun, my mouth, my attitude, my actions, or my intentions. You see, life was meant to be a training school of preparing you for eternity. Yeah, really. Because God didn't create you just simply to, hey, guess what? Go out and party hardy and then, get saved so that way you could come and visit me in heaven. No, you are being prepared for eternity. You get to experience the reality of a age to age to age continual existence with the living God. That is so that, those people who like to play games with theology, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Spirit. Now, what that means to you and what that means to me may be a completely different thing. But I can tell you this. When I have an experience with my Father, it's different than I have an experience with Jesus. And when I have an experience with the Spirit of God, it's different than when I have an experience with the Father or the Son. So, for me, it works. Whatever it is, I don't know, but I know He is God. And He has said that I would not understand that. So, what you should do, and what I should do, and what we all should do in our life, really, is to get out more often, to go for a walk, to go and talk it over with God himself. Because if you don't get to know God now, you're not going to understand and know God later. You will, in fact, probably send yourself to hell. I don't want you to go there, but hey, if you want to go there, be my guest. Knock yourself out. But whenever you find yourself, kind of depressed or oppressed, or your confessed faith has taken you into a place that you don't know what to do, I got news for you. It's pretty simple. It's the same thing Jesus did with his disciples. He took them for a walk.